Hello, this is Florian. I'm clinical hypnotherapist slash life coach, former domestic abuse victim, then survivor. Today I'm a happy camper. I escaped. Just this as an introduction for those of you who haven't seen the other videos. Today I would like to talk about stress. Not too long, just a few minutes. Look at the time. Yesterday morning, I was in a taxi, and the taxi driver told me about a parent and a child he'd driven before us. They had been on the school run. Um, he was a real gentleman, this taxi driver, and very politically correct. He called the parent just a parent and the child, so we don't even know if it was a mother or father, which is irrelevant. But what he said was how this parent reacted or behaved in their stress and their morning stress. So they were on the school run. The assumption is that the parent probably afterwards had to go to work because why else all of the stress. And the taxi driver he was a good guy. He was very relaxed. And he said, well, then he didn't tell that client, but he said, well, then leave 5 minutes earlier. Because what this parents demanded was that he should drive faster. If he couldn't speed up, which was impossible. It's impossible in the morning traffic, especially around that area here in Nottingham. Lots of schools there. It's just congested. And asking somebody to drive faster to speed up is an impossible request. It's not a request one can fulfill. Now, I'm not saying this to blame anybody, also not anonymously, oh gosh, what a word, anonymously. However, it shows us something. And it shows us very clearly how stress, which is a form of fear, or you could say it is based on fear, or some people say, well, stress is just the achiever's word for fear. Stress is fear, or one type of it, one shade of it. How fear shuts down or reduces the ability of our prefrontal cortex, of our critical thinking. So the frontal cortex is here. There are different areas to it. I'm not in neuroscience. It is one of the highest achievements, or maybe the highest achievements of, our evolution. That's what makes us human. Also, other animals, if you allow that phrase, other animals, mammals have a prefrontal cortex. Not all of them, mainly predators and some monkeys and apes, as far as if I remember correctly. So our prefrontal cortex is the center for critical thinking, for lots of executive functions. I'm not going to read anything out, but I'm not the best with definitions and stuff. So critical thinking, language, maths, planning, all of these things, that's the prefrontal cortex. And this is what makes us, at least in the brain sphere, more capable than animals, if or when we are able to use it. Now, stress drastically, or even worse, fear, also anxiety or outright fear, drastically reduces the ability of the prefrontal cortex to function this critical thinking. This is very reasonable, very logical, because, and I'm coming back to the taxi example in half a minute, this is very reasonable and necessary because let's say you're getting attacked. I mean, in the past, it was more likely. I mean, most people who listen to this here live in areas in the world where they do not get attacked by tigers or by robbers that much. Let's hope so. Or cave bears. So when you get attacked, you cannot reason your way out of a, let's say, tiger attack, lion attack. You need to react. And this is where the fight-flight response comes from. These days, people also add freeze and fawn, like fawning behavior, yeah? So either flight, fight, or freeze, if you can't decide what to do, or fawning, the fawning behavior. So and that's to do with the amygdala. What happens is how it is designed, how it was designed initially was, okay, you see a tiger or you see a big spider or a king cobra, and that goes through the perceptions, obviously, the thalamus, and then the amygdala in our brain gets informed. Let me just see if I can share the amygdala with you, and I'll keep talking then. Here we have it. Right, I hope you can see that. So it's only shown from the side here, but there are two parts, left and right, actually. So the amygdala triggers our emotions faster than our conscious awareness can ever do, meaning we get a chance to react faster, really fast. Not by comparison to a cat, they are way faster than us. However, this gives us a chance of survival. Whereas if this didn't work and we started reasoning, we started, oh, tiger is lifting its paw to slash us, to hit us over the head. What can I do now? I mean, by that time we are dead, yeah? So that's a function of the amygdala, or one of them. Yeah, our conscious analytical thinking is way too slow to get us out of immediate danger, like, as I said, or saying now a bear attack. So the amygdala is designed to protect us from harm by interpreting subconscious hints of danger, that's through the perception, the thalamus, and it triggers lightning fast, or the fastest responses we are capable of. Now here is a problem. First of all, it does not protect us from constant negative news. Yeah, CNN, mainstream media, or permanent pressure at work, to name just two, or school runs. Parent takes child on the school run, is a few minutes late, traffic congested, maybe more than usual, and parent needs to go to work. Maybe they don't have the nicest boss, or they have a deadline that day. It's Friday morning, and by Friday, 12 o'clock, they have to hand something in. Who knows? And fear, stress gets triggered. And stress is a form of fear, as I said a couple of minutes ago, maybe 5 minutes ago. And it shuts down the prefrontal cortex. And then reactions like this come up. Oh, can you not drive faster? Can you not? Whereas, which is a sure sign of them not thinking clearly, which the prefrontal cortex does. This thinking is inhibited because of the stress, the fear, flight, fight response, or freeze. Here, maybe the fighting as this asking or telling the taxi driver to be faster, the beginning of an argument, possibly. Not saying it went that far, but there's a possibility. Now, the sad thing here is you may have heard of Pavlovian dogs. Pavlov was, I think, a Russian psychologist, a behaviorist, and the experiment that he did with the dogs was every time that he fed the dogs, he rang a bell or made some other sound. So the dogs started to associate in their brains the ringing of the bell with being fed, with getting food. So that one day, he just started ringing the bell. And the dog started to saliva and to react as if there was food in front of them. Obviously, then they got confused because there was no food, and so I'm sure they got the food later because Pavlov was a dog lover, I hope. So now this is when two stimuli are connected. The food on the one hand, and the ringing of the bell on the other one. And this is the Pavlovian. Now I'm lacking the word, doesn't matter. The Pavlovian response, dogs, whatever. Now, here is the thing. The same thing can happen with negative behavior or stimulating negative behavior, like expressions of fear. I'm not saying that fear is morally wrong, but when you give in to your fear, it's negative for you, for your organism, for your thinking, for your future. If you do it too often, you become conditioned. Now, let's give another example. If, for example, one conditions a person, let's say, showing the picture, a completely neutral picture of another person. Yeah, a photo, just a stranger photo. Testing first what the natural response is, because we are all conditioned. We are all preconditioned since our childhood, aren't we? Which is very, very, very super mega important for our behavior later, because we are running these patterns and we are run by them. Yeah, the first 7 years of our life, as Aristotle said, he definitely lived in the past, give me a child for this first 7 years of their life or of his life. I think they will all use the masculine form, and I will show you the man. Now, if you show a picture in neutral, which normally triggers a neutral response to a person, and then you start scaring that person, let's say with noises, loud bangs, in connection with showing this neutral picture. After a while, the brain will work, and there is the perception, the thalamus, then the amygdala gets scared. You get scared, have this jump scare by seeing this neutral face, which is a neutral stimulus. Sooner or later, you will get afraid of that face, also without the bang. Then they just have to show you the face and you, yeah, because this is how we work. This is how we get conditioned. Now, where's the relevance for this hopefully brief video? I don't want to bore you. And for you is we get conditioned by our society, and most of us, we allow it. As I said in another video, I keep repeating myself. I'm 54 years old, and it took me over 5 decades to become normal again. Or, well, let's put it like this. I spent the last 1 to 2 years, well, not the last, a bit before that, to heal myself once I knew what was wrong with me and how I could alleviate my symptoms and take away the root causes for my emotional problems. So when you go, not you obviously, when one goes, let's say takes a child regularly a little bit late to school in the morning, in the taxi, in the congested, in the traffic congestion, and let's say one is always late. If we are always late, we will always get stressed. That's a natural response because we want to be, depending on the person, if someone absolutely doesn't care, fair play, they are just relaxed and oh, who cares? I can get another job. However, and most people are conditioned also by our school system to be on time, to hand in the coursework on time, to do their best, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I'm overgeneralizing now because there are also lots of kids who are not properly taught that way because the school system is immensely flawed. However, it teaches us to be on time, to become a bit robotic, learning by rote and all of that. So when we become adults and we start working, we already have this system in our minds, and that's what the school system, this modern school system, which is now completely outdated, was originally created for by the Germans, my forefathers, yeah. So we are preconditioned. We are conditioned from a very early age, 6, 5, even nursery, not nursery probably yet, but preschool, school, yep, be on time, the classes, this and that, speak only when people tell you or allow you to speak, hand in your coursework, do the deadlines, all of this. And then the parent coming back to the original story, which is a true story, like the taxi driver told me about yesterday. Then the parent sits in the car. The parent is preconditioned, and she or he, they want to be on time because, and there's the manager or the director, and maybe they are not the nicest people, or maybe it is also possible that because of how they were brought up, this parent, yesterday's parent in this taxi, maybe they had fairly harsh or distant parents, because our parents are our first figures of authority, and later figures of authority are like metaphorical extensions of our parents. I hope that makes sense. I mean, there is the prototypical family, the nucleus, how we grow up in. I mean, if one has a fairly normal upbringing, there's the family, there are the parents, the first two, then maybe sisters, siblings, grandparents, the whole family, the whole family tree. And that's the nucleus, that not just nucleus, that's a prototypical family. And later on at school and in work, we have metaphorical extensions of this. Some people even say it, yeah, or we are like family here at work in our company. Yeah, and it is like the patterns, how we have been conditioned, what we learned of the first 7 years of our life, especially the first 7 formative years, but then also later on, still, I mean, we're getting conditioned the whole time. These are then extended metaphorical extensions, yeah? Okie doke. So this parent sits in the car. Maybe I'm overdoing it now with the explanation, but sits in the car, wants to get to work on time, has left a little bit late, as it happens when you have children. But there's the stress builds up in the chest. Yeah, and can make you sweating, can make you shiver, can make us aggressive, which is the fight response through the amygdala. Yeah, again, flight, running away, fight, and in between there can be the freeze and also the fawning. Yeah, like, please. Right. This works then in a similar way to the Pavlovian conditioning, the behaviorism, yeah, with the dogs, or the one what I explained to you about the neutral picture of a person, which initially triggered a neutral response, and together with this big bang, loud noise, which gives you a jump scare, and which conditions you to be afraid, to become afraid of this picture, which previously triggered only a neutral response. And it is the same or similar with going to work. If you're always late, and I'm not blaming anybody, I'm not judging anybody. I mean, that was the table. You're conditioning yourself then. Or if it's not you who is listening now, other people are conditioning themselves in that way. Because the stress response, it becomes natural. Gosh, going to school again, and one day maybe there isn't even such a traffic congestion. Maybe it's and you're looking at the watch and say, we're gonna make it today. We're gonna make it. The stress is still building up, although you're looking at the watch. Oh, there's plenty of time, and there is still stress because we have conditioned ourselves, or we have allowed. Well, we are responsible as adults. We have to take responsibility for our actions and for our behavior, and also for our conditioning. Just to insert this here again, the first step into proper self-empowerment is having the courage to take responsibility for one's own actions and thinking. So this is the first step: courage, self-responsibility, these things together here. Right. So we have conditioned ourselves, like this parent yesterday, to get stressed, and then as a result, the stress, which is a form of fear, or just call it fear if you like, reduces, it shuts down, not completely, not with something like that, but reduces to varying degrees our capability of critical thinking. Because that parent had she or he just looked out of the window, seen the congestion, thought about it for a few seconds, I would have thought, oh my God, he can't drive fast. He's doing what he can. Let's just sit back. We might be late today. My own fault because I didn't get up early enough or I meditated too long, whatever. So that was just my explanation of stress today, or some stress trigger. There are many triggers for stress, many triggers for fear, many of which are not natural as it was meant to be, or 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago. Not necessarily meant to be, but what the thalamus, and the amygdala were there for originally. They were designed for our survival. That's why it's also called survival mode, chronic stress, chronic survival mode. Yeah. That's where the phrase comes from. They were responsible for our survival. These days, here in the West at least, we are fairly safe. It's not the same as living in a cave, which had been abandoned by a cave bear. Now the cave bear is coming back, or we walk outside and there's a saber-toothed tiger. I'm not entirely sure now if we were already around when the saber-toothed tigers were here. So, all right. So what is important to know is we are conditioning ourselves. We can recondition ourselves. What goes one way here can also go another way. I was deeply depressed, used to be. I was suicidal, borderline suicidal. I see the difference. For me, there's a difference. Hugely anxious, over 5 years in family courts to be able to be with my children. For years, I was afraid of the other parent, of her leaving the country with the children, because that's the threat that was there. And my logical thinking, my prefrontal cortex shut down because of my fear. Later on, I understood, well, there was no way that she could have done it. But when you're so afraid, it shuts down, it reduces your ability to think critically. So, my friends, my name is Florian Weinhold. I'm a hypnotherapist with papers and life coach, hybrid, because I prefer both approaches. I prefer to combine both approaches. The therapy looks at past issues and the life coaching is more forward-looking, which is a really positive thing, isn't it? And today I spoke about stress. The example was the taxi driving. Then I told you a little bit about the amygdala, which is responsible for the flight-fight response, which can also have a freeze in between and a warning. And that's it for today. I wish you a super rest of the day. I mean, whenever you watch this, listen to it, whatever is left of your day, enjoy it, do something for your emotional health. Start meditating, for example. It's a great thing to do, daily meditations. At least 10 minutes in the morning sets you up for the day. And stay out of stress. You can do it. Have a great day. Love you all. Florian Weinhold. Bye bye.